Chapter 337. Only to see three figures approaching at an extremely fast speed. In just a blink of an eye, they were already standing next to Yiqing Luo. These three people were dressed in red robes and their heads were covered tightly, only revealing a pair of penetrating eyes. "There's help!" a student cried out in shock. Yun Xiang was restraining Shi Ju when he heard this cry as he looked over with rapt attention. He saw another three intruders by Yiqing Luo's side. His heart suddenly trembled as he was overwhelmed with shock. The entrance to the heavenly training forest had always been sealed. Only today was the entrance opened and he had been guarding the entrance. If anyone were to barge in, he would definitely be the first to discover it. How could there be so many intruders? Quickly take down these four people. When we return, the elder quarters will send people to search the entire training forest and catch all the intruders. Yun Xiang's face was gloomy as the moves he struck out became more and more vicious. Yiqing Luo held onto her right arm as her peripheral vision swept past the few people beside her as her pink lips pursed. "What are you guys doing here?" These three people were none other than Xiao Jin, Yan Xiao Yi Tong Ziqing. When she saw Tong Ziqing, Yiqing Luo was slightly astonished. "Didn't you say that we need to nurture our team consciousness? We're a team, aren't we?" Xiao Jin smiled as his tone was calm. "She did say that, but if the elder quarters were to find out, it would implicate the entire devil class." Yan Xiao Yi carefully avoided Yiqing Luo's injured arm as she patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, even if we suspect the entire academy, the elder quarters will absolutely not think that it's the devil class." "Stop the nonsense. Since you want us to understand what's called a team, why are you so apprehensive? Are you treating us as a team?" Tong Ziqing scoffed coldly. Her gaze towards Yiqing Luo was as unfriendly as usual. But the meaning in her words was obviously that she had listened to what Yiqing Luo said previously, acknowledging Yiqing Luo as her companion. Looking at the three people beside her, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with warmth. Her brows were filled with smiles as she slowly nodded. "Yes, we're a team." Team. These two words, Yiqing Luo had thought and recited for 2 lifetimes. Finally today, she could openly say out the word team. In her previous life, as the head of the hidden family, she did not have the right to make friends, nor did she have the right to become companions with anyone. Everything she had should be given to the Yi family. This was the first time someone had treated her as a member of the team. She clenched her fists so tightly that she could no longer feel the pain from the whip wound on her arm. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and there was a gleam of confidence in the depths of her charming eyes. "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to any of my companions." Yiqing Luo lowered her voice and shot a glance at the cat-beast young lady who was being guarded by Shengguan Fangyi. "If there's a chance, help me bring that young lady away. As long as we bring her away, we can easily leave this place." Yiqing Qian also knew that her target was to bring that young lady away. It was to prevent her from getting close to the young girl and exhausting her strength. However, with the help of Xiao Jin and the others, as long as they cooperated well, it would be an easy matter to bring that young lady away. The few of them exchanged glances and nodded in understanding. Yiqing Luo's vision returned back to those surrounding students. Her gaze suddenly fell onto the wooden tokens on the students' waists, as her long and narrow eyes were suffused with a trace of treacherous craftiness. She abruptly raised her palm and a burst of profound qi was unleashed from both her feet. Chapter 338. The branches rustled and the fallen leaves on the ground were blown away by the strong wind. The shadows of the trees danced, and when the whirlwind blew towards them, those 20 over students felt a chill down their spines. Suddenly, a student cried out in shock, "My wooden token is gone. And mine." One after another, the students touched the wooden tokens on their bodies in disbelief. That wooden token represented their points, represented their honor in the class. There was only 1 hour left till the end of the actual combat training. If they lost their wooden tokens now, it meant that their 1 day's hard work and 1 day's blood and sweat had all gone to waste. For students' wooden tokens were gone, and the other students immediately covered their own wooden tokens. After they touched their own wooden tokens, they heaved a sigh of relief. Those 4 students' faces were like frosted eggplants as they held tightly onto their waistbands, searching their entire bodies but couldn't find their wooden tokens. How could this be possible? They had obviously pinned their wooden tokens on their waistbands, waiting for the end of the training to lock in their own results. But if their wooden tokens were snatched away at this critical juncture, they would be eliminated. 1 hour. The eyes of the 4 students slowly landed on the students around them. Those 10 over students who still had their wooden tokens immediately covered their own as they took a few steps away from those 4 students. Are you looking for your wooden tokens? I saw him earlier, he was the one who took advantage of the chaos to steal your wooden tokens. Yiqing Luo smiled innocently as her charming eyes curved as she pointed towards one of them. That person was stunned as his face flushed red. What nonsense are you sprouting? How could I possibly steal their wooden tokens? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. The gazes of all the students were fixated on that person. Especially those 4 students who lost their wooden tokens, their gazes towards that person were filled with suspicion. It's not me. She's slandering us, trying to divide us. However, no matter how that person explained furiously, the students' eyes were filled with unconcealable suspicions. Suddenly, a sweet-sounding and calm voice rang out, "Don't be deceived by the intruder. He wants to make us fight among ourselves so that he can seize the opportunity to escape. How dare he show off such a petty trick in front of me?" Yiqing Qian's icy cold eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo as she scoffed, "The intruder is already injured, the other 3 are nothing to be afraid of." The students were skeptical. After all, this wooden plaque represented the final results of their training. If he were to be eliminated in the last hour, he would definitely suffer from internal injuries due to anger. Take him down first. If we continue to waste time like this, our wooden token will be in even more danger. One of the students shouted impatiently as he took the lead to raise his weapon and charged towards Yiqing Luo's direction. He hadn't even taken a few steps when he heard Yiqing Luo's clear voice leisurely ringing beside his ear. "Little brother, there's someone behind trying to steal your wooden token." The student subconsciously turned his head to look behind him. He saw the student whose wooden token had mysteriously disappeared standing behind him. He glared at the student whose wooden token was missing. Before he could explain himself, a gust of wind came slashing down from his palm. "You from class 2, I didn't steal your wooden token. How dare you sneak attack me?" When this palm landed, the student was so infuriated that he opened up a map. The collaboration between the 2 classes, which had been built up with much difficulty, was once again on the verge of collapse. Everyone looked at the person beside them, feeling that the other party was trying to snatch their wooden tokens. For a moment, suspicions lingered around the students, causing them to be on tenterhooks. Brilliant. Simply brilliant. Qiao Jin's lips twitched a few times. He knew that Yiqing Luo was black-bellied, but he had never seen such a black-bellied one. Chapter 339. Yiqing Luo's eyes rose as she added a few hints of ridicule. The human heart was originally selfish. Especially for those from high profound class, they were arrogant and had a heart higher than the sky. Other than themselves, they wouldn't believe anyone else. Now that they were grouped together, it was merely to make use of each other, to get what they needed. Yiqing Luo was just teasing her slightly, knowing that her words could possibly be fake. But they couldn't help but believe her words. Because they didn't dare to risk their own honor. What if the students from the other classes really wanted to snatch their wooden tokens? Class 1 and 2's students made a move, and that student from Class 1 called out the entire Class 2. This instantly caused Class 2 to rebound. Even if Yiqing Qian wanted to suppress the current situation, the seeds of suspicion had already sprouted in both parties' hearts, and there was no way to maintain the peace on the surface. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at the 3 people beside her as the arc of her eyes became even more enchanting. Yiqing Qian had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's actions, and on seeing the few of them exchanging glances, her heart suddenly turned cold. Trying to escape from under her nose? Don't even think about it. Yiqing Qian's figure turned illusory as she waved her long whip, like a snake sticking out its scarlet tongue, as it coiled towards the direction of Qiao Jin and the others. A dagger suddenly coiled around that long whip. The long whip quivered as it became taut and straight. On the other end of the long whip, a dagger was coiled around. The one holding the dagger was Yiqing Luo. Her fingers gripped the dagger tightly as she controlled Yiqing Qian's long whip. Both parties were in a deadlock. The aura of an Earth Profound Realm expert constantly appeared on the whip's body. Wave after wave, through the long whip, through the dagger, striking onto Yiqing Luo's palm which was holding onto the dagger. That strong profound qi had already corroded Yiqing Luo's internal organs at an extremely fast speed. Yiqing Qian apparently didn't expect that there was someone who wasn't afraid of death, attempting to withstand her Earth Profound Realm's qi, to be in a deadlock with her. Qiao Jin's pupils dilated slightly. He naturally understood that Yiqing Luo had already used her own strength to go against an Earth Profound Realm, which was a huge risk. If she was slightly careless, there was a possibility of being swallowed by the Earth Profound Realm's qi. If it was him, he would absolutely not be as decisive as Yiqing Luo. Qiao Jin's eyes were filled with determination as he clenched his fists. "Wait for me." After saying these two words, the gold coin darts in his hand flew out like a fairy scattering flowers. While the students were dodging the coin darts, his figure became illusory and he broke through the students' encirclement. "Be careful. Don't let him bring away the injured intruder." Yiqing Qian cried out in alarm, attempting to remind the high profound class students. However, the students of the two classes were now suspicious of each other. He was afraid that when he went to stop the trespasser, the other students would seize the opportunity and snatch his wooden token. Yiqing Qian was exasperated as she tried to retract her whip. But the other end of the long whip was held tightly by Yiqing Luo. Her eyes were covered with a layer of ruthlessness. Her slender fingers suddenly spread open, and a ball of Earth Profound light enveloped her entire palm. Yiqing Qian brushed her palm against the long whip, completely releasing the prestige of an Earth Profound cultivator. For a moment, the entire training forest was engulfed by strong winds and huge waves. Thick and sturdy trees with luxuriant branches and leaves were rustled by the strong winds. The shadows of the trees danced in the wind as the bright moon in the sky shone through the gap which was opened up, scattering fragmented splendor. The ground started to tremble slightly. The surroundings beneath Yiqing Qian's feet started to crack. All the students who were staring vigilantly at the people around them started to shift their gazes onto Yiqing Qian. Chapter 340. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk as an oppressive feeling gushed up her chest as she felt a fishy sweetness in her throat. She forcefully suppressed that oppressive feeling as the dagger in her hand curled around the long whip once more. Following that, she revolved her profound qi to protect her heart. An Earth Profound practitioner's power is too strong. Student Yi won't be able to hold on for too long. Let's end the battle quickly. Qiao Jin saw Yiqing Luo's pair of charming eyes as it was masked with a ball of thick black color. His heart tightened as he speedily rushed towards that cat-beast young lady. Just as he was about to stretch out his hand to grab her, a long sword blocked in front of him. Qiao Jin speedily shot out a gold coin dart as it spun a few rounds and struck heavily on the long sword. Shangguan Fang Yi's arm felt numb as his brows creased tightly as he looked at Qiao Jin. "You're in the way." Qiao Jin's brows revealed a sliver of impatience as he wasn't willing to waste time on Shangguan Fang Yi. Yan Zhenfei, who was still recuperating by the side, gripped her twin blades tightly as she tried to block Qiao Jin's path. But a ghostly voice rang beside her ear, "Your opponent is me." Before she could get up, she was pressed against by a slender figure. The sharp dagger was pressed against Yan Zhenfei's fair neck. This voice made Yan Zhenfei's pupils constrict as an inconceivable expression flashed past her eyes. She speedily reacted as her petite body swiftly retreated a few steps as she turned her head to look at the lady who stuck close to her. When she met Yan Xiaoyi's pair of spirited but chilly eyes, she seemed to have sunk into a trance as the twin blades in her hands dropped onto the ground. The two people guarding the cat-beast young lady were subdued. Tong Ziqing speedily waved her long whip as it rolled up the young lady lying on the ground and pulled her into her arms. Following that, the three of them stopped at the same time as they speedily returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Yi Qingqian's expression was gloomy as she had not expected Yi Qing Luo to remain unmoved after she released her earth-profound stage qi. Instead, she restrained her even more. On seeing that young lady being brought away, she cursed in disappointment, "A bunch of trash." Her long whip shook as her profound qi turned into waves as it charged towards Yi Qing Luo. But she had not expected Yi Qing Luo to suddenly let go of her long whip when she was shaking it. Retreat. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, suppressing the sweet fishy feeling in her throat as she opened up her arms, pressing the few people behind her to retreat rapidly. The few of them had just moved when the wave of qi exploded with a loud bang. The place where Yi Qing Luo was standing earlier had already turned into a huge black hole. Shijue. Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at the cat-beast young lady in Tong Zi Qing's arms and immediately called out. Shiju was currently trapped by Yunxiang, unable to cross Yunxiang to help its master. Its eyes were already scarlet red, losing its patience. Upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's call, the scarlet red beast's eyes blinked as it gave off a low growl. The huge body that was trapped swayed, and its huge back was already arched in an attacking posture. Although Yunxiang was summoned here later, he understood the current situation. Those people's goal was to save the injured intruders. If this magical beast met up with the intruders would definitely escape. He waved his palms, and an earth-shattering palm wind pressed down. He absolutely could not allow this mirage beast to leave. The raging wind swept past the trees, and that fragmented moonlight swayed, coupled with Shiju's piercing howl. It seemed extremely strange. Shiju's leopard claws slammed onto the ground as its huge body swiftly leapt up. It didn't hide, but instead it met Yunxiang's palm qi, charging upwards. Chapter 341. That palm qi brought along the momentum of swallowing the mountains and rivers. But the minute it came into contact with Shiju's teeth, that palm qi which had swept up the fallen leaves and caused the surrounding wind to burst out, stopped abruptly. Shiju's teeth were like a sharp blade. When it opened its mouth, it could bite off all life. Yunxiang had not expected this low-leveled mirage beast to have such an ability. After it broke through his condensed palm wind, that huge leopard's head was just inches away. Yunxiang's expression changed greatly as a panic which he had never felt before started to spread from the bottom of his heart. That pair of scarlet-red beast eyes shone with a coquettish brilliance, revealing an impatient murderous intent. Not waiting for Yunxiang to react, that huge leopard's claw stepped on his chest. His internal organs seemed to be squeezed by a heavy object. He fell heavily onto the ground as his white long robe was swiftly covered by the scattered leaves and dust. Shiju stepped on Yunxiang's chest and speedily rushed towards Yi Qing Luo, giving off a sharp low roar. Well done. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips rose under the veil as it floated gently onto Shiju's head. Her vision turned towards the back. Go up. It was the first time for the three of them to see a mirage beast at such a close distance. Even though they knew that this was Yi Qing Luo's contracted war pet, but when they saw that leopard's head which was bigger than their entire bodies, staring at them with a pair of scarlet red eyes, their calves couldn't help but turn into jelly. Mirage beast grade war pet. That was equivalent to an earth-profound realm cultivator's strength. Yi Qing Luo was actually able to contract such a powerful war pet. Quick! Make the best use of the time. Yi Qing Luo caressed Shiju's head. Shiju bent its four limbs as it lowered its body, allowing the few of them to climb up. Xiao Jin understood that this wasn't the time to be shocked by the mirage beast as he took that young lady from Tong Zi Qing's arms and flipped over onto Shiju's back. Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Zi Qing exchanged glances as they swiftly climbed onto Shiju's back. Trying to leave? How could Yi Qingqian let them leave so easily? The long whip waved over once again as her figure speedily chased up to them. Yi Qing Luo had yet to leap onto Shiju's back when Yi Qingqian was already nearing. The long whip swept out in an arc, setting off a strong imposing manner, heading towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Coincidentally, Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Zi Qing had sat down properly and Yi Qing Luo forcefully endured the discomfort in her body as her palm struck the ground fiercely and her figure swiftly soared into the sky, landing stably on Shiju's back. This action caused the veil on Yiqing Luo's face to be lifted. When the few of them sat down, Shiju's figure transformed into a bolt of lightning. In an instant, he had already disappeared into the lush forest, disappearing without a trace. The entrance area was in a mess, and many students did not even dare to breathe. The intruder left. With low-level magical beasts as mounts, there was no way they wouldn't be able to catch up to the magical beasts. As for Elder Yunxiang, he was severely injured by the illusionary beast and did not even have the strength to get up. The powerful qi that swept through the entire entrance gradually stopped. The fallen leaves slowly floated to the ground. And Yiqing Jian, who was originally waving her long whip to chase after him, stood stiffly on the spot. He even forgot to retract his whip. That beautiful face was filled with disbelief. She stared blankly at the direction where Shiju disappeared, as her heart thumped hard and trembled violently. Just now. The moment the veil was lifted, the outline that was vaguely revealed, that slender and fair jaw, rosy pink lips. Especially that pair of soul-stealing eyes. Yiqing Qian's heart seemed to be choked by something, even her breathing became heavy. That red-robed lady, was she Yiqing Luo? How could it be possible? How could she have the ability to enter the heavenly training forest? How could she have the ability? Recalling that low-level mirage beast, recalling the scene when Yiqing Luo sat on the high-level mirage beast's back, her expression instantly turned pale. Chapter 342. Shiju's speed was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it had already brought the few of them out of the secret tunnel. Before they walked out of the secret tunnel, Yiqing Luo called out to Shiju. They had already left the training forest. Shiju's size and its mirage beast's aura would easily attract the attention of the other experts in the academy. They had to be careful. After Yiqing Luo and the others got down from Shiju's back, Shiju turned into a palm-sized pet. Yan Xiaoyi stared curiously at that palm-sized Shiju. She couldn't imagine that this was the low-leveled mirage beast which had the size of a thick tree. The current Shiju which had shrunk looked like a cat and a dog. Its cuteness was evident. Let's hurry back to the devil class, change our clothes and deal with it. Yiqing Luo scanned the surroundings vigilantly. Walking out of the training forest, this was the academy's turf. If the hidden experts in the academy were to find out about their devil classes matter. What happened in the training forest today would definitely implicate the devil class. Your wound must be treated in time. Let's get Lulu to take a look at it when we return to the devil class. Yan Xiaoyi looked at the wound on Yiqing Luo's arm, which had already congealed into a blood scab as her slender brows creased into a bundle. Yiqing Luo's profound grade wasn't high, but she was on par with an Earth Profound Realm cultivator. On the surface, she looked fine, but internally, she had suffered a serious internal injury. Xiao Jin single-handedly carried that cat-beast young lady in his arms. Let's go. Devil class, Bei Ming Lulu's pharmacy. Yiqing Luo laid on the bed and her arm had been bandaged. Her face was pale without any color of blood. One look and one knew that her injury wasn't light. Bei Ming Lulu sat by the bedside and the silver needles in her hands accurately pierced into Yiqing Luo's various acupoints. Her medical skills were brilliant and she was confident that she could restore Yiqing Luo's body back to its original state. But it would take some time. Yiqing Luo's internal organs were all attacked by Yiqing Qian's profound qi. She didn't feel any pain when she contended with Yiqing Qian in the training forest, but the moment she laid down and moved slightly, she felt a heart-wrenching pain. Looking at Yiqing Luo, who was in so much pain that her forehead was drenched in cold sweat, Bai Ming Lulu sighed softly. I really don't know what kind of physique you have. Your profound grade isn't high to compete with an Earth Profound grade cultivator's profound qi. Your internal organs are almost shattered. It was strange. Bai Ming Lulu had never seen anyone with Yiqing Luo's physique. If it was an ordinary person, even if it was a profound practitioner of the profound realm, forcibly receiving the profound energy released by a profound practitioner of the Earth Profound Realm would result in their internal organs being shattered and becoming a cripple. In the worst-case scenario, they would be devoured by the profound practitioner of the earth profound realm and disappear from this world. However, Yiqing Luo only suffered an internal injury. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were intact. It was as if something was protecting her internal organs. Yiqing Luo's breathing was slightly unstable as Bai Ming Lu kept pricking her body with needles one after another, causing her body to tremble in pain. "Student Yi, you're too reckless." Looking at Yiqing Luo biting her lower lip tightly, sweating profusely in pain but trying her best to suppress the pain, Xiao Jin's tightly knitted brows creased into a bundle. He was at the scene and saw everything clearly. Recalling the scene of Yiqing Luo using the dagger to restrain Yiqing Qian and competing with profound qi, a chill ran down her spine. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head. "I'm fine." Sure enough, he needed to improve his strength as soon as possible. She needed to find her own profound jade heart as soon as possible. Otherwise, based on her current strength, if she met someone with a higher profound grade, she would be helpless. If it wasn't for the fact that the Azure Dew bracelet had activated its protection mode in time and used the enchantment to protect her internal organs, her injuries would definitely not be just this. Chapter 343. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she revealed a faint smile. She could tell that these people were genuinely concerned about her. "I'm really fine. If it wasn't for your help today, I wouldn't be able to bring this lass away so smoothly." Yiqing Luo's brows were tinged with smiles, we're a team and today's coordination was extremely good. Xiao Jin and the others saw her smiling so peacefully as an indescribable gloominess gushed out from their hearts. "Student Yi, I hope that in future when you're facing danger, you'll think of us behind you." Tong Ziqing, who was leaning against the door with her arms crossed in front of her chest, putting on a sour face, her icy cold gaze swept past Yiqing Luo. "We don't have that kind of leisure to be able to rush to your side in time every single time." Seeing Tong Ziqing's obviously concerned but awkward look, Yiqing Luo laughed softly. "Yes, I won't do it in future." Her charming eyes curved into crescents as she smiled, like a bright crescent moon, radiating brilliance. The others looked at her smile and that indescribable gloominess in their hearts slowly dissipated. Not knowing when it started, Yiqing Luo seemed to have become the core in their eyes. Yiqing Luo had obviously joined Devil class for merely half a month, but her position in their hearts was the same as Long Yunzhan. Perhaps it was because when Yiqing Luo first entered Devil class, that confident and resolute gaze, using her own ability to speak boldly, had awed them. Or perhaps it was because every single time Yiqing Luo was able to use her words and her views to convince them. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo obviously looked cold and indifferent, not someone who liked to meddle in other people's business, but towards all the students in the class, she had never been stingy with her help. Especially today, she faced 20 over high profound class students alone, not panicking in the face of danger. Even after they appeared, in order to ensure their safety, she went against Yiqing Qian's actions alone. Their hearts were completely shaken. They asked themselves honestly, if it was them, would they really be able to be so resolute? That's right, where's that young lady? The minute she reached Devil class, she was forcefully brought to Bai Ming Lu by Xiao Jin and that young lady was sent somewhere else. The room next door. Tong Ziqing frowned and a trace of impatience flashed across her eyes. "I didn't expect Student Yi to be so kind. For a girl whom you don't even know, you actually wanted to rescue her from the hands of more than 10 high profound class students. Do you really think that you're a god?" Tong Ziqing really couldn't understand why this seemingly cold woman would save someone completely unrelated to her time and time again. Previously, he had helped Anai Rupan, and now, he had saved that strange young girl. Furthermore, both of them were extremely troublesome. Could such a kind person really stand firm in this world in the future? She's not an ordinary person. Yiqing Luo had no intention to tell them in detail about the matters regarding the Beastmen clan. Old Man Song had said that the Beastmen race had already been extinct in the entire Nirvana realm. Even if he said it out loud, these people might not understand and it might even cause panic. She chose an explanation that everyone could accept. Look at the ears on her head and that black tail. She's not a normal human. Xiao Jin and the others already had doubts in their hearts. This was the first time they had seen a person with a pair of cat ears and a cat tail. This was the reason why Yiqing Luo chose to save that young lady? Chapter 344. Xiao Jin and the rest didn't say anything else. Bei Ming Lulu had already finished her acupuncture and heaved a sigh of relief. Rest for a few days. In less than 5 days, I guarantee you will be back to your previous state. 5 days? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she shook her head slowly. No way, I must go for the freshman training. If I don't go, I'm afraid our actions today will be exposed. In the training forest, when she leapt onto Shiju's back, she seemed to have seen Yiqing Qian's astonished face. Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if Yiqing Qian had recognized her. If she didn't attend the freshman training at this time and stayed in devil class, based on Yiqing Qian's character, she would definitely be suspicious. If Yiqing Qian knew that she was the one who saved the young lady in the training forest, she would then trace it back to devil class. The current devil class wasn't strong enough to contend against the entire academy. Long Yunzhan must have the same thoughts as her. If the academy knew about devil classes students' aptitude and forcefully allocated them to the intermediate or low profound classes, and they didn't have the ability to make these students stay, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Before they could confirm, they couldn't take the risk. Just based on your current state, you still want to attend the freshman training? Bei Ming Lulu put down the bottles in her hands as she rolled her eyes at Yiqing Luo. Don't spoil my reputation as the #1 divine doctor. I'm afraid tomorrow Yiqing Qian will come to the freshman training ground to confirm. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She also understood that with her current physical condition, it was impossible for her to complete the freshman training. But if she didn't go, Yiqing Qian would place the suspicion on her. She couldn't risk the entire devil class. At most we'll let Master Guiyu apply for leave from the instructors. Just say that Master Guiyu is training us trash and wants you to be a training example. Yan Xiaoyi clapped her hands fiercely. Right, let's do it this way. This will only make Yiqing Qian more suspicious. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she lowered her head to look at the acupuncture point on her chest and gently breathed out. Is there any way to cover up the whip wound on my arm? Xiao Jin's expression changed. Who cares if she has suspicions? We'll deal with it when the situation calls for it. Earlier you said you won't joke with your life. Aren't you playing with your life? I know what I'm doing. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Lulu should have a way to make me get off the bed tomorrow. Baiming Lulu slightly raised her eyebrows. She was extremely confident in her medical skills, of course, but it's only limited to getting out of bed. If you participate in the freshman training, even if my ancestor comes back from the dead to heal you, it would still be impossible. Yiqing Luo nodded slightly. As long as I can get off the bed and act like a normal person, that's enough. Move like a normal person. Baiming Lulu creased her slender brows. Although your internal organs weren't crushed by Yiqing Qian's profound qi, but you're more or less injured, and the moment you move, you'll feel pain. It's a little difficult to move like a normal person. It's nothing. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards. It was just pain, she could bear with it. In the past, she had endured all kinds of hardships, tiredness, and pain. Even if someone were to take a knife and cut her flesh, she would not make a sound. Chapter 345. Based on Yiqing Qian's character, if she had any suspicions today, she would definitely not be able to sleep at night. Tomorrow morning, she would be waiting at the training grounds to test if I'm injured. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as a cold arc flashed past. If I were to go to the training grounds safely and let her see it with her own eyes, it would dispel her suspicions. Then, just like what Xiao Yi said earlier, before the training starts, let Teacher Guiyu bring me away in front of her and everything will fall into place naturally. Yiqing Qian's character was to only believe what she saw with her own eyes. As long as she could prove that she was not injured and safe in front of Yiqing Qian. No matter how much suspicions Yiqing Qian had, she would not be so sure. And Guiyu's character had always been to do as he pleased, even if it was in front of the instructors. Forcefully bringing her away was a very normal thing. The few of them looked at each other. Yiqing Luo's method was not impossible. But did Baiming Lulu really have a way to let Yiqing Luo act like a normal person tomorrow? Qing, Madam Qing Luo. A weak voice was heard from the door as Ni Rua Pan stood at the door. If Yiqing Qian doesn't believe me, what should we do? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands and shrugged. If she doesn't believe me and wants to test me, I will give a signal for Teacher Gue Yu to bring me away in advance. Yiqing Qian doesn't have the guts to go against Teacher Gue Yu. She had already thought of an escape route. Let's follow Student Ye's method. A figure dressed in a blue robe walked in slowly from behind Ni Rua Pan. Class monitor. The few of them stood up and greeted Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan nodded his head as his calm gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. After some time, he flipped his palm and a jade bottle appeared in his palm. This is the actual combat training's reward. Congratulations, first place. Although Long Yunzhan was congratulating her, but his tone didn't have any undulations. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned as she looked at the jade bottle which Long Yunzhan passed over. First place? My points have not changed since the beginning, how could I possibly be first place? She spent the entire day with Ni Rua Pan and the magical beast points were all used to give Ni Rua Pan actual combat experience. Her wooden token had always been 30 points. After that, he barged into the High Profound Zone and met the students from the High Profound class. How could he get first place? You have 106 points in total. Long Yunzhan's vision swept past Tong Ziqing who was leaning against the door with a sour face, and immediately returned to Yiqing Luo. This is your reward, 106 points. Oh my god. So many. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes suddenly flashed, as though she understood something. As she looked straight at Tong Ziqing, you've given all your points to me? Tong Ziqing snorted coldly. 30 points are the initial points. Under your guidance, Ni Rupan has gained 14 points. Take the remaining points as a gift from me. With that, she turned around with a proud look on her face and left the pharmacy. How willful. What happened to the strong desire to win? Was it really a good idea to give her the first place just like that? Madam Qing Luo, actually Vice Class Monitor and the rest will rush over to the High Profound Zone to look for you. It's all thanks to Sister Ziqing, she's actually very concerned about you. Ni Rua Pan looked at Tong Ziqing's departing figure, worried that Yiqing Luo would get angry, so she hurriedly explained for Tong Ziqing. She originally didn't like Tong Ziqing's character. She only felt that Tong Ziqing was too overbearing, using her power to bully others. Usually the one who led the bullying was Tong Ziqing. Chapter 346. Ni Rupan could no longer hate Tong Ziqing for what she did. From Ni Rua Pan's mouth, Yiqing Luo then found out that Xiao Jin and the others were able to rush over to the High Profound class in such a timely manner and specially prepared their red robes and masks, was all thanks to Tong Ziqing. From the moment they entered the heavenly training forest, Tong Ziqing went straight in, looking for magical beasts to accumulate points. It was Ni Rupan's first time in the training forest, so her physique was far from Tong Ziqing's. She could not keep up with Tong Ziqing's pace. He was thoroughly humiliated by Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing directly pushed the battered Ni Rupan to the side when they were killing the demonic beasts. She then scolded the wretched Ni Rupan for not being a hindrance since she was a good-for-nothing. Ni Rua Pan's pride was insulted as he left Tong Ziqing and walked back to the entrance to wait for Yiqing Luo. Following that, under Yiqing Luo's guidance, they killed magical beasts one after another. While Tong Ziqing was accumulating points, she suddenly discovered that the points on the wooden tablet had mysteriously increased. She felt that it was strange, thinking that there was something wrong with the wooden tablet. To prevent the class leader from accusing her of cheating, Tong Ziqing specifically found Xiao Jin and explained the situation. Xiao Jin guessed that Ni Rupan killed the demonic beasts to accumulate points for her team. Tong Ziqing could not believe that Ni Rupan, who was so useless that she would gasp for breath after running a few steps, could actually kill a demonic beast. His points were still increasing at an average rate. How could this be? Hence, Tong Ziqing, Yan Xiaoyi and the others followed the location indicated by the wooden token and found Ni Ruo Pan, who was hugging Yiqing Luo's uniform and sprinting with all his might. After knowing that Yiqing Luo had a conflict with the high profound class students, Tong Ziqing immediately rushed over to the high profound zone. I know. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but chuckled after she heard the entire sequence of events. Her existence made Tong Ziqing feel threatened. Since Tong Ziqing had feelings for Long Yunzhan, it was only natural that she would target him previously. She knew that Tong Ziqing had wholeheartedly agreed with what she said in the class committee room. It was just that she was unable to lower her pride to ask for peace with Yiqing Luo. Such a proud and awkward little girl was quite cute. Also, Ni Rupan glanced at Yan Xiaoyi from the corner of her eye, then she lowered her voice and said, I'm afraid classmate Yan has been recognized too. What do you mean? Ni Ruopan licked her dry lips. High profound classes Yan Zhenfei is student Yan's elder sister from the same father and mother. Yan Zhenfei's innate talent has been strong since young and was admitted into Heavenly Academy at a young age. In just 1 year, she passed the semi-annual class promotion test and entered High Profound Class 2. Hearing this, Yiqing Luo roughly understood what Ni Ruopan was trying to express. These students in Devil class were all trash in the past and Yan Xiaoyi was no exception. Her talent was not as good as her sister's, and she had been living under her sister's brilliance since she was young. Everyone could only see Yan Zhenfei but not Yan Xiaoyi. Hearing Ni Ruopan's concise and comprehensive description of Yan Xiaoyi and Yan Zhenfei's relationship, Yiqing Luo recalled that she and Yiqing Qian were once like this. However, her unexpected arrival had changed the fate of this body. But Yan Xiaoyi was different. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared at Yan Xiaoyi with interest. She didn't believe that Yan Xiaoyi would obediently live outside of Yan Zhenfei's halo. Based on Yan Xiaoyi's character, she would absolutely not allow herself to be at a disadvantage. Behind this halo, it was hard to say who was in charge. Chapter 347. Ever since Ni Ruopan entered Devil class, she had been extremely cautious. To integrate into Devil class, the first thing was to understand the students in Devil class. She was most proud of her memory. Because of this, she had memorized the information and hobbies of the people in her class. Towards Yan Xiaoyi, she had some understanding. No worries, it's the end of the month holiday in a few days. By then, I will think of a way to dispel Yan Zhenfei's suspicions. Yan Xiaoyi waved her hand indifferently, totally not putting Yan Zhenfei in her eyes. When she first came to Devil class, her motive was to work together with Long Yunzhan, to lead the Devil class until they could contend against the High Profound class, then participate in the school's competition. Ruthlessly slapping Yan Zhenfei's face, ruthlessly stepping on the pride of the Yan family. Even if Yan Zhenfei knew in advance, so what if Yan Zhenfei recognized her? What could Yan Zhenfei do to her? Ah, that's right, it's almost the end of the month, the school will have a 3-day holiday. Bei Ming Lulu's eyes lit up. In this case, student Yi, you can no longer participate in the training. Holiday? Yiqing Luo then recalled that it was indeed written in the booklet that the school would have a holiday on the last 3 days of every month. No matter if it was a master or a student, they had to leave the school. This was the school's tradition and rule. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk as her slender brows creased slightly. A holiday was much more troublesome than staying in the school. In the school, she could still make use of Guai Yu to cover up her injury. But if she returned to the Yi family, Yiqing Qian had borrowed the power of the dark forces and had just advanced to the Earth Profound stage. If she returned to the Yi family, she would not be able to live peacefully. Looked like. After hiding in the school for the past few days, she would have to hide for the 3 days of holiday. With Lulu treating you, by the time the holiday arrives, your body should have recovered by 70 to 80%. Xiao Jin leaned by the side as his brows rose slightly. Based on your ability, when you return to Three Springs sect, Yiqing Qian won't be able to gain any advantage from you. Bei Ming Lulu nodded. If student Yi cooperates, she will indeed be able to recover by 70 to 80%. Looking at these people, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with warmth. Everyone in the devil class treats you as one of the team members and is very concerned about you. So, I hope today's incident will not happen again. Long Yunjian, who had been silent, opened his mouth faintly. He stood by the bed, his gaze indifferent and his expression indifferent. Only that pair of rippling blue eyes gazed intently at Yiqing Luo, revealing some seriousness. Yiqing Luo met that pair of blue eyes and was slightly stunned. She suddenly recalled that day, the conversation between him and Chi, and her heart suddenly trembled. There were so many people in the pharmacy. Yiqing Luo resisted the urge to ask him about Chi's whereabouts and his relationship with Chi, nodded her head and responded yes. Today's actual combat training, you were almost discovered by the high profound class and caused such a huge commotion. It's your fault. After you recover from your injuries, you will be responsible for the cleanliness of the devil class for 7 days as a warning to others. Class monitor. Xiao Jin opened his mouth, trying to plead for Yiqing Luo. Long Yunjian casually glanced at Xiao Jin. His expressionless face and eyes were as calm as water, adding a bit of indifference to his whole person. Xiao Jin immediately fell silent. This is indeed my fault. I am willing to accept the punishment. When she did the action of going out to save that young lady, Yiqing Luo had already guessed that this action of hers had already violated the devil class's rules. Long Yunjian's punishment wasn't considered heavy, and it was only on the surface, to warn the other students. Long Yunjian didn't say a word, as he remained silent as when he came, as he calmly turned around and left the pharmacy. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she stared at Long Yunjian's back view. He wasn't going to tell her where Chi was? Chapter 348. That night, in order to prevent Yiqing Qian from hesitating and purposely waiting for her in the dormitory to see if she was injured, Yiqing Luo got off the bed after pulling out the silver needles. Just like what Bei Ming Lu had said, the moment she moved, her internal organs would be affected and there would be bursts of throbbing pain. Yiqing Luo endured the pain and wore her uniform neatly. After looking at her in the mirror for a while, apart from her pale complexion, she didn't seem to be out of the ordinary. Holding the painkillers that Bei Ming Lu had prescribed for her, she had just walked out of the devil class when she saw Lu Xiaoyu standing at the entrance of the devil class, waiting anxiously for her. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu saw her and immediately went forward. Her eyes were filled with worry as she stared at Yiqing Luo from head to toe. She wanted to support Yiqing Luo but didn't dare to touch her. Vice class monitor asked you to come over? One look at Lu Xiaoyu's expression and she knew that she was specially waiting for her. Lu Xiaoyu nodded, her bright eyes were already filled with tears. He said you had suffered a serious internal injury but you can't let the other students know, so he asked me to fetch you. Xiao Jin was considerate. Her current condition indeed made it impossible for her to return to the dormitory normally. With Lu Xiaoyu around, at least she had the strength to support herself. Yiqing Luo didn't say what had happened, so Lu Xiaoyu naturally wouldn't ask. Lu Xiaoyu was an intelligent girl and knew the reason why Xiao Jin specially asked her to fetch Yiqing Luo. She was like usual, holding Yiqing Luo's arm with one hand, her face revealing the same smile as usual. In fact, Lu Xiaoyu's position could support most of Yiqing Luo's strength. On the way back to the dormitory, Lu Xiaoyu kept on chattering about the intermediate profound class, talking about the things that the masters had taught her recently. Yiqing Luo occasionally responded. From Yiqing Luo's increasingly heavy body, Lu Xiaoyu could feel that Yiqing Luo's body couldn't take it anymore. Finally returning to the dormitory, she had just opened the door when she saw Lu Shuiyu sitting there asking around, her eyes staring straight at Yiqing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu's expression congealed as she slightly straightened her back, giving Yiqing Luo a strong support. Qing Luo, the instructor said that today's training will add a new exercise, let's rest early today. Lu Xiaoyu said as she held her arm and only released her when they reached Yiqing Luo's door. Behind him, Lu Shuiyu sneered, why does it look like student Yi is struggling to walk? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. As expected. Yiqing Qian recognized her. When she leapt onto Shi Ju's back, half of her veil was lifted by Yi Qingqian's whip, allowing Yi Qingqian to see it. But she didn't expect that Lu Shuiyu would still be in contact with Yi Qingqian after the violation of the Academy's rules, and even came to test her on behalf of Yi Qingqian. Yi Qingluo chuckled lightly as she glanced sideways and sneered, "If the former vice president has the time to pay attention to me, why don't you think about how to get back your position? If you lose the faculty council member status, you won't be able to see your dear president anymore." Yi Qingluo chuckled. With just a few words, he poked at the sore spot in Lu Shuiyu's heart. "You." Lu Shuiyu slammed the table and stood up. Her cold and elegant face immediately showed anger. However, Yi Qingluo didn't bother about her as she opened the door and walked into the room. Chapter 349. Yi Qingluo had just closed the room door and that forcefully supporting body leaned against the door as she panted heavily. But when she smelled that familiar sandalwood scent in the room, she was completely stunned. She immediately raised her eyes and saw a tall figure standing in the middle of the room. He was dressed in a purple robe, and the ink was loose on his shoulders. That peerless talent, usually filled with smiles whenever he saw her, was expressionless. That pair of gleaming peach blossom eyes were sinister and treacherous, revealing a few hints of danger. This gaze made one's back go cold. Yi Qingluo's body suddenly tensed up. She had never seen this expression from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian had never revealed such an expression in front of her before. Her heart trembled fiercely. Dmo Xian knew what happened to her today. Yi Qingluo took a deep breath, suppressing the intense beating of her heart. She had just opened her mouth to speak a word when she softened her tone, "A Xian." Dmo Xian wasn't like usual. When he heard Yi Qingluo's intimate call, he beamed with joy as he went forward to embrace her into his arms. He stood on the same spot, filled with viciousness, his thin lips pulled, forming a frosty arc. "Lil Luo, really enjoyed herself today, so much that you can't even stand properly now?" That voice seemed to be wrapped in frost, making one shudder. Yi Qingluo was in the wrong. She had caused herself to be seriously injured, making Dmo Xian worried. It was her fault. Seeing Dmo Xian's viciousness getting thicker, Yi Qingluo's pink lips pouted, her eyes were stained with tears. As she looked at Dmo Xian pitifully, her voice was sweet and coquettish. "Xian, I'm in pain." That tone was one which Yi Qingluo had never used before. It was a little aggrieved, a little choked. "Oh. You also know pain?" Dmo Xian's obsidian-like destructive eyes was biting cold as he sneered. Yi Qingluo bit her lower lip, as her eyelashes were stained with tears. "I'm in pain, so in pain. I need a Xian's kiss and hug to stop the pain." This method of acting coquettishly was unparalleled. Dmo Xian's face, which seemed to be sealed in ice, started to show some cracks. Yi Qingluo had been paying close attention to Dmo Xian's expression, and seeing that acting coquettishly worked, she might as well throw away her moral integrity and coquettishly said, "Ah Xian, I'm in so much pain that I don't have any energy, carry me." Dmo Xian's face was still cold, but he still walked over and hugged Yi Qingluo's waist in his arms. His movements were fast, but extremely light. Yi Qingluo almost didn't feel the pain from her body when she fell into the man's arms. That elegant sandalwood fragrance lingered around her nose, and Yi Qingluo's heart, which had been hanging in suspense, gradually calmed down. Dmo Xian carried her all the way to the bedside. Just as he was about to put her down, Yi Qingluo's slender fingers suddenly grabbed onto his robe. That uninjured arm circled around Dmo Xian's neck, encircling him. The girl's sweet and exquisite face came close to Dmo Xian's eyes. With the fragrance of a young lady, Yi Qingluo's pink lips pressed onto Dmo Xian's. Her actions were a little careful, but also a little fawning. After a peck, Yi Qingluo moved her lips away as she buried her head into the man's chest. "Ah Xian, I didn't intentionally let myself get hurt. My plan was to coordinate with Shi Ju to save that young lady without any harm at all, but I'd not expected Yi Qingluo to have broken through to Earth profound grade." Dmo Xian didn't say a word, and towards Yi Qingluo's kiss, he didn't turn passivity into initiative like in the past. It could be seen how angry he was right now. Chapter 350. After acting coquettishly, she also fawned on her. Yiqing Luo felt that she had already thrown away her moral integrity. That young lady was from the Nirvana realm's secret beast race. Saving her might allow her to form a contract with her, to open up her bloodline. If the young lady wasn't willing to form a contract with her, then she would have another beast race friend. To Yiqing Luo, there were only benefits and no disadvantages. Under such circumstances, she would naturally be fully prepared before she stepped forward to save her. Initially, when she took a liking to Shiju, what attracted her the most was Shiju's speed. If she wasn't able to save her and the situation changed, she could totally ride on Shiju and leave swiftly. Furthermore, she had the secret art of teleportation on her. If she sensed that something was amiss, she would be able to protect herself by displaying her teleportation. Because of this, she dared to use her own strength to go against 10 over high profound class students. But no matter how she calculated, she hadn't calculated that Yiqing Qian had broken through to Earth profound realm, nor had she calculated that Xiao Jin and the rest would rush over to help her. Escape route? This is your escape route? Dmo Xian scoffed lightly as his fingers suddenly moved and easily undid Yiqing Luo's waist seal. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened. His fingers parted her uniform, his fingertips faintly brushing against her skin, causing her to shudder. Yiqing Luo's breathing suddenly stopped, not understanding what Dmo Xian's actions meant. Yiqing Luo's clothes were already half opened, revealing the fair skin on her left shoulder. Dmo Xian's fingers slid down and revealed her entire arm. Her arm was wrapped with a layer of medicinal powder, but it still couldn't hide the blood scab from the whip, which was extremely conspicuous. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly as his fingers suddenly pressed on her wound. Hiss. Yiqing Luo sucked in a breath of cold air in pain as her body kept on shrinking backwards. That finger which was pressing on the wound, on hearing her cries of pain, couldn't bear to loosen his strength. Immediately after, a cool feeling was emitted from Dmo Xian's fingertips. That cool feeling, after it had passed through the wound, the pain from Dmo Xian's pressure disappeared. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes guiltily as she softly called out Dmo Xian's name. I'm sorry. I know you're angry with me, I promise. Promise there won't be a next time, alright? Dmo Xian remained silent as he calmly took out a jade bottle from his netherworld dragon ring and changed her dressing. His expression was ice cold, and his eyebrows were calm. However, his actions were extremely gentle. As though Yiqing Luo was his treasure. He held it in his mouth, afraid that it would melt, and held it in his palm, afraid that it would fall. His cautiousness made Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly warm up as her nose turned sour. In front of others, she was confident, insolent, and arrogant. Only in front of Dmo Xian, she was like a little woman. Even if a knife was pressed against her neck, she would not show the slightest bit of fear or the feeling of wanting to cry. But this man gently helped her apply medicine, which made her so touched that she wanted to cry. Even more than that, she was filled with guilt. I know, the current me, is no longer alone. Devil class's companions are very important, but you are even more important. Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes fluttered as she gazed deeply at the handsome face which was just inches away from her. I've made you worried, I'm sorry. The wound on her shoulder had been bandaged again. Bursts of cool feeling drowned out that pain. Dmo Xian's slender fingers hooked onto Yiqing Luo's clothes as he gently and slowly helped her put it on. Chapter 351. Dmo Xian's voice was filled with suppressed pain. He stretched out his hand and hugged Yiqing Luo's petite body. Light and slow, incomparably gentle. He didn't dare to use force, afraid that if he did, the person in his arms would be in pain. Slowly embracing Yiqing Luo into his arms, Dmo Xian's head, buried in her neck. The man's warm breath, sprayed on her skin. Like a ball of fire, burning her. Perhaps it was because his action was very light, or perhaps it was the effect of the medicine he applied, Yiqing Luo totally didn't feel any pain. Even the internal injuries suffered in her internal organs didn't cause any pain because of the slight movement of her body. "I'm angry at myself, will let you get hurt." The man's voice in her neck was very low, indistinctly, a little unclear. But it wasn't hard to hear, his tone, vaguely, "I should protect you. Should protect you completely." His words, word by word, were like a warm current, flowing into Yiqing Luo's heart. Her brows overflowed with some tenderness, her charming eyes were filled with warmth. "It's not your fault, don't blame yourself, I will feel terrible." Dmo Xian's head slowly lifted up from her neck. That pair of glistening peach blossom eyes reflected Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up, smiling like a flower. Exquisite peerless looks, at this moment, seemed to cover up all the beauty in the world. Four pairs of eyes met, there was only each other in their eyes. "I know you care about me, and want to protect me forever." Yiqing Luo's voice was as gentle as a feather, yet filled with seriousness and determination. "But Xian, I want to grow, want to become someone who can stand by your side, who can protect you. I'm not a woman who hides under a man's wings, relying on a man to survive. I don't want to not only be protected by you, I also want to protect you." Love was not a matter of one person, but a matter of two people. It was originally mutual equality. Stick to each other, protect each other. Dmo Xian was strong, but it didn't mean that she only needed to enjoy Dmo Xian's strength to contribute for her. What she wanted to do was to stand by Dmo Xian's side, like how he protected her, to protect her. Dmo Xian wasn't willing to see her get hurt and fall into danger. Was she willing to see Dmo Xian fall into danger for her? "This time, I was careless and overconfident. I admit my mistake." Yiqing Luo stretched out her uninjured hand and her fair palm caressed Dmo Xian's face. "My Xian dotes on me, cares about me and will absolutely not stop me from growing up, right?" The woman's eyes were resolute and the expression on her face was not as cold and proud as before. Instead, it was like a pool of warm water, gently wrapping around Dmo Xian's heart. Dmo Xian's heart was violently shaken. These words, Yiqing Luo had told him before. However, each time, he was shaken in a different way. This was the woman he fancied, the most unique woman in this world. He had always been at the top, respected and feared by tens of thousands. But only Yiqing Luo didn't care about his identity, didn't care about his power, and only treated him as an ordinary man. She would not ask for his protection, nor would she hide behind his back. She would take things as they came and enjoy a lifetime of peace. She said that she wanted to walk side by side with him, to protect him. This was the first time someone said that she wanted to protect him. And it was a woman. Dmo Xian could deeply feel that Yiqing Luo treasured him. Chapter 352. Yiqing Luo smiled, her charming eyes curved, filled with infinite affection. The man's pale thin lips, with a trace of elegant sandalwood fragrance, lightly imprinted on her forehead. That sandalwood fragrance blurred Yiqing Luo's eyes. She only felt her eyelids heavy, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, she was awakened by Lu Xiaoyu's knocking on the door. Opening her eyes, the room was quiet, only the sandalwood fragrance in the air proved Dmo Xian's existence last night. Yiqing Luo blinked her sleepy eyes, propped up her arm and got up. She then realized, in shock, that she was not as unbearably painful as she had imagined. The wound on her arm had been changed and bandaged, a burst of cool feeling stopped all the pain. She raised her hand and covered her chest. The profound jade heart at her heart was emitting warmth. Her entire internal organs were enveloped by that warmth. Although her body was not as relaxed as before, but moving like a normal person, there was no problem. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up, her face overflowing with a smile. Dmo Xian he actually considered so thoroughly for her. Knowing that he was unable to change her decision, and unable to see her endure the pain, he used his own way to protect her. The profound jade heart, injected his energy, during this period of time, was able to relieve the pain on the body. Compared to Bei Ming Lulu's medicinal pills, it was much more effective. Yi Qing Luo came out of the room, the corners of her mouth hung an unconcealable smile. Lu Xiaoyu lightly knocked on the door, her face trying her best to pretend to be calm. But that smear of anxiety in her eyes collided into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Seeing Yi Qing Luo come out, Lu Xiaoyu heaved a sigh of relief. Without leaving a trace, she sized her up. Training is about to be late, let's go quickly. Yi Qing Luo nodded lightly, raised her eyes to see Lu Xiaoyu still sitting in the hall, staring at her with a gloomy face. Still not dispelled the intention to test her. No wonder Lu Xiaoyu was so worried that she couldn't wait to directly barge into Yi Qing Luo's room, but was afraid that her worry would let Lu Xiaoyu know that Yi Qing Luo was injured, so she forcibly endured it. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo directly ignored Lu Xiaoyu, stretched out her arm and directly held onto Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder as they walked towards the dormitory's entrance. When the two of them walked out of the door, Lu Xiaoyu suddenly stood up and chased after them. She stared maliciously at Yi Qing Luo's back view, her delicate brows tightly knitted into a bundle. Lu Xiaoyu had also heard about the intruders in the training forest. Yi Qing Jian had specially told her that one of the intruders looked extremely similar to Yi Qing Luo. If that intruder was Yi Qing Luo, the current Yi Qing Luo should have suffered from an extremely serious internal injury, and without 10 days to half a month's rest, it was impossible for her to move. Last night when he saw Yi Qing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu returning intimately, looking at Yi Qing Luo's state, it was indeed a little strange. But now, Yi Qing Luo was no different from usual. Which one of her looked like someone who was seriously injured? Lu Xiaoyu's eyebrows furrowed, her cold and elegant face twisted into a sinister expression. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and followed him out of the dormitory, walking in the direction of the freshman training ground. Indeed, as Yi Qing Luo had expected, they had just reached the training ground when they saw Yi Qing Jian, who was surrounded by everyone, standing at the entrance. Her usual gentle gaze was now filled with seriousness, sizing up the freshman. See that, that's Three Springs Sec's eldest young miss, the #1 beauty in Three Springs City, Yi Qing Jian. I heard that she had broken through to Earth Profound Realm during the actual combat training in High Profound class yesterday. Earth Profound? So powerful. No wonder she's a student from High Profound class. Chapter 353. Voices of discussion rose and fell in succession in the entire training ground. This other world had always believed in the rule of the strong. In the eyes of these freshmen, the High Profound class was a godlike existence. Especially when they heard that Yi Qing Qian had broken through to the Earth Profound stage in the actual combat training, all the freshmen's gazes towards Yi Qing Qian had turned into worship and ecstasy. Yi Qing Luo understood Yi Qing Qian's motive for coming here, but she pretended not to see her as she held Lu Xiaoyu and walked directly into the freshman training grounds. Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Qian's eyes sunk as she called out to Yi Qing Luo coldly. Yi Qing Luo ignored her as though she didn't hear anything. This action infuriated Yi Qing Qian. Yesterday, after she realized that the intruder was Yi Qing Luo, she couldn't sleep at all. She specially asked Yi Qing Luo's dormitory mate Lu Xiaoyu to probe, but she didn't expect Lu Xiaoyu to totally ignore her. For the entire night, Yi Qing Qian's eyes seemed to be floating in the training forest. The red-robed lady's veil which was lifted and the outline which was vaguely revealed kept overlapping with Yi Qing Luo's face. Tormented her for the entire night. Yi Qing Qian had been waiting here for Yi Qing Luo since early in the morning. Only by probing herself would she be able to ascertain if that red-robed lady was Yi Qing Luo or not. The current her was feeling vexed as she suppressed her anger. Especially when she saw Yi Qing Luo, who had tormented her for the entire night, this anger surged uncontrollably into her heart. Yi Qing Qian shot a glance to the side. Following her were Shangguan Fangyi and Yan Zhenfei. Yesterday they had suffered such a huge loss in the hands of the intruder. If they were able to ascertain that Yi Qing Luo was the intruder, they would absolutely not let her off easily. The two of them swiftly went up and blocked Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's slender eyes narrowed as her red lips curled into an enchanting cold arc. A good dog doesn't block the way, scram to one side. The minute she opened her mouth, she wasn't courteous at all. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly as she raised her hand to slap the arm which was placed horizontally in front of her. Shangguan Fang Yi didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to make a move as he suddenly withdrew his hand. But no matter how fast his reaction was, he wasn't able to match Yi Qing Luo's speed. Yi Qing Luo's hand looked like a casual slap, but her fingertips were extremely sharp. A gash appeared on his sleeve. It wasn't a big cut, but this action was like a vicious slap to Shangguan Fangyi's face. That rather handsome face instantly turned gloomy. Yi Qing Luo, you dare to make a move in front of so many students? Are you trying to violate the Academy's rules? Violate the Academy's regulations? Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes curved as she couldn't help but laugh out. Which eye of yours saw me making a move? You blocked my way without any explanation. Should I also say that you attacked me? Shangguan Fangyi's words were blocked, and his face turned red. His tightly clenched fists were already bulging with veins as he forcefully suppressed his rage. Seventh sister. Yi Qing Qian slowly walked towards her, the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile as she spoke in a gentle tone. Eldest sister has something to ask you. Her expression was gentle, her smile was gentle, and her tone was gentle. However, the cold probing and scrutinizing look in his eyes was extremely obvious. Yi Qing Qian's brows creased slightly as she secretly had some doubts in her heart. Yesterday she had used 100% of her strength, completely charging her earth profound grade profound chi into the intruder's body. That intruder's profound grade was absolutely not high, so there was no way he could defend against her profound chi attack. Even if in the end, the intruder rode on the mirage beast and escaped from the training forest. But that intruder would absolutely suffer an extremely serious internal injury, and without lying in bed for 10 days to half a month, he would definitely not be able to climb up. Chapter 354. Yi Qing Qian's brows creased slightly, as her beautiful eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo's hand. Yesterday, she had lashed the trespasser's arm with her whip. She could clearly see that the intruder's arm had been whipped till the flesh split open, as fresh blood flowed out. With the profound chi of the earth profound realm, ordinary people would probably be crippled if they received that whip. Even if that intruder was not an ordinary person, after receiving that whip and her profound chi attacking her internal organs, that arm would be crippled if not crippled. But, Yi Qing Luo raised her hand to slap away Shangguan Fangyi's hand, which was coincidentally injured by her whip. Could it be that the intruder was really not Yi Qing Luo? I heard that eldest sister has already broken through to the profound earth realm. You're indeed the pride of the Yi family. Yi Qing Luo's eyes opened into a long arc, as she revealed a teasing smile, as she blinked her eyes innocently. A few days ago, eldest sister was punished to wash the latrine for 3 days. This punishment actually helped eldest sister to break through to the profound earth realm. Looks like eldest sister and the latrine are fated. Yi Qing Qian's smiling face instantly darkened. Her stomach started to roll. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't see Yi Qing Qian's expression as she giggled. It's the Academy's holidays in a few days. Why not hand the Yi family's latrine over to eldest sister to clean? Perhaps the next time we meet, eldest sister will become a sky mystic overlord cultivator. Her tone was coquettish, sweet with a hint of a young lady's innocence. Coupled with that exquisite beautiful face, it was impossible to believe that Yi Qing Luo intentionally said these words, or that she really thought that Yi Qing Qian would be able to advance by cleaning the latrine. Full of sarcasm. Instantly, the surrounding students burst out laughing. Yi Qing Qian's face was a mix of green and red as she frowned. That day when she was cleaning the latrine, it seemed to fill her nose again. Cleaning the latrine for 3 days was a memory that Yi Qing Qian didn't want to recall for the rest of her life. That was the biggest stain in her life. After she was punished, the students didn't dare to laugh in front of her because she was a high profound class student, nor did they dare to mention it. But now, the culprit who caused her to be punished to clean the latrine for 3 days, was actually using this stain to ridicule her in front of all the new students. A chord in Yiqing Qian's brain snapped. That pair of gentle and lively beautiful eyes shot out an intense hatred. Just as Yiqing Qian flew into a rage and attempted to make a move, the hand that she raised was pressed down by a slender hand. Then, a cold voice rang out, "Student Yi, can you tell us where you were for the entire day yesterday?" It was Lu Shuiyue. She stood in front of Yiqing Qian with her head held high and the expression on her face was as cold as usual. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as her slender brows rose slightly. Sure enough, these two people hooked up again. She had originally wanted to agitate Yiqing Qian into losing her rationality and force her to make a move. Then he asked Lu Xiaoyu to summon the instructors and directly send Yiqing Qian to the elder quarters. This way, she could follow the script and continue to develop. She had not expected Lu Xiaoyu to rush over and even specially stopped Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with ridicule as she laughed lightly. "Don't tell me where I am, where I go, what I eat and what I do. I have to tell Vice President everything. Don't talk glibly, you know what you're doing." Lu Xiaoyu's face sunk. That term, Vice President, was simply a slap on her face. Chapter 355. Seventh Sister, you've misunderstood Xiaoyu's meaning. Yiqing Qian smiled lightly, gently put her hand on Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder and walked past her towards Yiqing Luo. "The academy will be on holiday in a few days. I want to ask you if you want to go home with me." As she said, her hand naturally grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart. She understood that Yiqing Qian wanted to test if there was any whip wound on her arm. Since Yiqing Qian wanted to test, then she naturally had to give her a big gift. Yiqing Luo's gaze fell on Yiqing Qian's hand. Her expression changed immediately and she took a few steps back in a panic. "Elder sister, this, you can't touch here." Her dodging made Yiqing Qian's eyes lit up. Especially when she saw the panic on Yiqing Luo's face, she was even more certain of her guess. If Yiqing Luo's arm was really injured, then she was definitely the intruder yesterday. "Why can't I touch here?" Yiqing Qian put on a puzzled look. "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Let me take a look." This time, Yiqing Qian directly grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist forcefully. She didn't forget to pretend to be concerned as she muttered, "Child, you're so worrisome both at home and in the academy. If you're not feeling well, just tell me. In this academy, I'm your only family. No wonder you're a student from the high profound class. Your profound grade is extremely high, your innate talent is strong, you're beautiful and so kind, treating your sister so well." In the training ground, a freshman stared at Yiqing Qian with an envious look. "Kind? I didn't see how kind this genius from the high profound class is." Dong Huanglang spat disdainfully and looked at Yiqing Qian mockingly. "Who doesn't know how to pretend, who knows what she's planning?" Although the other freshmen didn't dare to say it out openly like Dong Huanglang, but they all nodded and agreed with what he said. The surrounding students were basically this batch of new students. Seeing this scene of sisterly affection, they were all suspicious. They weren't fools and their memories hadn't deteriorated. Yiqing Qian even brought Lu Xiaoyu to find trouble with Yiqing Luo in front of them. It was obvious that the relationship between the two sisters was not as good as it appeared to be. Moreover, the reason why he was waiting for Yiqing Luo at the training ground so early in the morning was to ask her if she wanted to go home together with him. The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. No matter how they looked at it, they felt that Yiqing Qian had another motive. Due to the incident where Yiqing Qian led Lu Xiaoyu to slander Yiqing Luo for violating the academy's regulations, these freshmen's impression of Yiqing Qian had long fallen to the bottom of the valley. That was how people were. When you're doing well, everyone thinks that you're doing well. But when you have the slightest stain, you will deny everything you have ever had and only remember that stain. To these freshmen, there wasn't any image of Yiqing Qian's gentleness and elegance in their minds. What existed was only the image of Yiqing Qian targeting her own sister, and in the end, she went for wool and came home shorn, being punished to clean the latrine. After all, for the past half a month, although Yiqing Luo didn't interact much with them, but every time she trained, her serious and determined attitude was able to motivate everyone, persevering to complete the daily training. Even the cold-faced instructor was full of praise for Yiqing Luo. These freshmen naturally stood on Yiqing Luo's side. However, Yiqing Qian didn't notice this. Her face still hung a concerned smile, her 5 fingers locked onto Yiqing Luo's wrist, grabbing her arm. Chapter 356. Just as Yiqing Qian's hand was about to touch Yiqing Luo's bandaged wound, Yiqing Luo's arms suddenly retracted as she blinked her flustered eyes. "Sister, you really can't touch, I." This retraction made Yiqing Qian's hand, which was clasping her wrist, slid downwards. Yiqing Qian's grip was extremely tight, and this slip caused the thing in Yiqing Luo's tight sleeve to slip out, falling into Yiqing Qian's hand. Yiqing Qian originally clasped Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly, but after Yiqing Luo struggled free, her palm grabbed onto a soft thing, subconsciously clenched tightly. Immediately, a lump of yellow stuff oozed out from the handkerchief and covered Yiqing Qian's hand. It was sticky and yellow stuff, and it even had a strange stench. This visual impact looked like a hand. Hot shit. Yiqing Qian's face instantly turned as black as charcoal. That mashed up and yellow lump reminded her of a few days ago when she was cleaning the latrine. In the process of cleaning, she couldn't help but be stained with those substances. Immediately, the feeling of tumbling in her stomach became more obvious. The smile on her face could no longer hang on. When the surrounding freshmen saw the lump of stuff in Yiqing Qian's hand, all of their expressions turned ugly and wanted to laugh. Some even held onto the wall as they retched. Sigh. "Eldest sister, I said you can't touch it, look." On the contrary, Yiqing Luo, who was hiding this pile of yellow stuff, looked at Yiqing Qian with a face full of reproach. "This is the mud sculpture which I had painstakingly made yesterday when I was competing with Devil Class's students in playing mud. I still wanted to bring it home and place it in my room." Mud? The freshmen widened their eyes as they stared at the lump of stuff in Yiqing Qian's hand as their mouths twitched. Some of the freshmen had sharp ears and heard the 3 words Devil Class. It was indeed the Devil Class, which was known as the Waste Class. Other students trained hard and worked hard to learn knowledge, while Devil Class students competed in playing mud. When the freshmen thought of Yiqing Luo's performance in training, all of them felt that it was a pity. She was obviously a moldable talent, but she was allocated to the Waste Class and had to accompany a bunch of waste to play mud. This was simply ruining Yiqing Luo. "Big sister, you broke my mud sculpture. You have to compensate me." Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't notice the gazes of the surrounding people as she spoke out in grievance. She felt wronged? She still wants me to compensate her? Yiqing Qian's expression was colorful as she was so angry that she wanted to slap Yiqing Luo to death. Putting a lump of mud in her sleeves without rhyme or reason and putting on an innocent look, Yiqing Luo was deliberately playing with her. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes blinked again as she stared at the lump of yellow substance that Yiqing Qian was stiffly carrying. After some time, her expression changed as she covered her nose and retreated backwards. "Elder sister, you look like you've caught a lump of sh*t. It would have been better if he hadn't said it." The moment he said it, the surrounding freshmen who were suppressing their laughter and felt disgusted couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Yiqing Luo, you." Yiqing Qian's face was filled with hatred as she gritted her teeth and wanted to use that lump of thing in her hand to wipe Yiqing Luo's face. But when she raised her hand, Yiqing Luo took a few steps back with a look of disgust. The lump of yellow stuff in her hand was sticky to begin with. After she raised her hand, that sticky lump of mud fell from her hand onto the ground. It looked more like a pile of sh*t. "It's almost time for training. What are you all doing? Still not lining up?" Chapter 357. Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu walked over expressionlessly as they glanced coldly at Yiqing Qian with an unfriendly expression. "It's freshman training time. What are you students from the high profound class doing here?" Yiqing Qian had a stomach full of anger and nowhere to vent it. Now that the instructors were here, she could only swallow her anger. Instructor Chu's gaze shifted to Yiqing Qian's hand, which was raised in midair, and after a glance at the lump of yellow substance, he frowned. I heard that student E was punished to clean the latrine a few days ago. I didn't expect student E to fall in love with things in the latrine. But this thing is harmful after all. You are a student of the high profound class. Pay attention to your image. Don't smear the name of the high profound class. If you like this stuff, just hide in the dormitory and play with it. This was the first time the freshmen heard Instructor Chu say such a long sentence. They didn't expect him to be so humorous when he looked cold and black. The freshmen couldn't help but burst out laughing. After saying this, Instructor Chu didn't even look at Yi Qingqian. He walked directly to the middle of the training ground and shouted loudly, "A bunch of little brats, gather immediately." Yi Qingqian, who was ignored, her twisted face flushed red. She bit her lips hard, restraining the surging anger in her heart. The other party was an instructor. Even if he was a freshman instructor, she couldn't refute him. Otherwise, she would be disrespectful and didn't know how to respect the teachers. Especially in front of a group of freshmen, she might even be labeled as a bad influence. Sheng Wanfang Yi and Yan Zhenfei, who followed behind, saw this situation and walked over with an ugly expression. "Student Qing Qian, let's leave first." Obviously, the two instructors were helping Yi Qing Luo. They originally came to test if Yi Qing Luo was the intruder in the training ground, but not only did they not succeed, they were humiliated instead. Even if they stayed, they would be a joke to the other students. There was no way to gain any advantage. If it wasn't for the fact that the training forest was a secret place, it would definitely cause panic among the students if the news spread out. They were ordered by the elders not to divulge anything. Otherwise they would directly strip Yi Qing Luo's clothes and forcibly check if she was injured. "Leave?" Yi Qingqian's sinister beautiful eyes were covered with frost as she gave a cold humph. "Why should I leave? Training is about to begin. As the eldest sister, I naturally have to take a good look and see if my seventh younger sister, who likes to play with mud, is training properly." When she mentioned the word mud, Yi Qingqian gritted her teeth. The two of them were startled, but they immediately reacted. They had all experienced the freshman training, so they naturally knew how tough and tiring it was. Based on the extent of Yi Qingqian's serious injury to that intruder last night, it was absolutely impossible for her to take on these training. Although Sheng Wanfang Yi and Yan Zhenfei had long dispelled their suspicions towards Yi Qing Luo. One must know that Yi Qingqian had unleashed an Earth Profound practitioner's coercion yesterday. Yi Qing Luo was just a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. Her internal organs had been attacked by an Earth Profound's coercion and she was still alive and kicking in the training grounds. But looking at Yi Qingqian's ashen face and that *T, the two of them knew that she was infuriated and could only stay behind. When Yi Qing Luo heard the instructor's shouts, she followed along. Lu Xiaoyu followed behind her as she stretched out her hand and hooked onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. "Qing Luo, when did you hide such a thing in your sleeves? Ha ha ha." Yi Qingqian's expression is just too good. "I've watched a good show so early in the morning." Chapter 358. Earlier Yi Qingqian had grabbed her wrist with a lot of strength, and in order to squeeze the mud wrapped in her sleeve into Yi Qingqian's hand, she had used a lot of strength to struggle free. This struggle had probably caused the wound on her arm to split open again. Yi Qingqian's whip yesterday was too vicious. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath as she endured the pain and didn't show it on her face. Lu Xiaoyu felt Yi Qing Luo's body stiffening and recalled Yi Qing Luo's pale face yesterday. A trace of annoyance flashed past her eyes. She immediately loosened her hand. This morning, seeing Yi Qing Luo's radiant look, she thought Yi Qing Luo was fine. Her heart was filled with guilt as she followed behind Yi Qing Luo, her eyes filled with worry. Standing in the team, Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept past Yi Qingqian, who was standing outside the training ground, as she frowned. She knew Yi Qingqian wasn't someone who could be easily dismissed, but she didn't expect that after personally testing her to confirm that she was not injured, Yi Qingqian still hadn't dispelled the thought of suspecting her. Just a slight movement of her arm and Dmo Xian's pain relief had lost its effect. If she continued to train, her internal injury would probably worsen. Just as Yi Qing Luo was waiting anxiously for old man Yu to appear, she suddenly heard Instructor Ho's cold voice. high profound class students, please do not disturb the freshmen's training. If you have the time, why don't you go to the square and run a few rounds? Not waiting for Yiqing Qian to reply, Instructor Ho's icy cold gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. Student Yi, to create such a commotion early in the morning and even delay his students' training, go to the library pavilion now and clean up the second floor. If you haven't sorted it out properly, don't leave the library pavilion today. The minute he said that, Yiqing Qian's expression changed as her expression changed. She subconsciously clenched her fists but forgot that her palms were filled with sticky yellow substance. The moment she clenched her fists, the mud on her hands was squeezed out. It landed on Shengguan Fang Yi and Yan Zhenfei, who were standing nearest to her. Both of their faces flushed red. Their hearts were filled with disgust, but they didn't dare to show it on their faces. Yiqing Qian was so infuriated that she was trembling and her throat felt a fishy sweetness as she almost vomited blood. She originally wanted to probe out Yiqing Luo's true colors, and as long as she was certain that Yiqing Luo was the intruder, the elder quarters would absolutely not let her off easily. He had never expected that he would become a joke. She took a deep breath and suppressed the rage in her heart. She didn't believe that Yiqing Luo could be so lucky for a few more times. With a swing of her arm, Yiqing Qian's face darkened as she turned around and left the freshman training grounds. The freshman's vision fell from Yiqing Qian to Yiqing Luo. She shook her head in sympathy. It was obviously Yiqing Qian who came looking for trouble, but the one who was punished was Yiqing Luo. Although they were freshmen, they knew that the library of the Heavenly Academy was so big that one could get lost in the toilet. To clean the library, even if they cleaned for an entire day, they might not be able to finish it. While the freshmen were pitying her, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. It was a good thing for her to clean the library and avoid training. At least in the library, no one would find out that she was injured. Yiqing Luo took a step forward and raised her eyes to look at Instructor Ho. Yes. When she saw the helpless and worried look in Instructor Ho's eyes, Yiqing Luo suddenly understood. It looked like the instructors had discovered Yiqing Qian's motive for looking for her. They could tell that she was indeed injured. That was why they asked her to go to the library. It was perfectly justifiable to avoid training and avoid Yiqing Qian's sight. Chapter 359. The Heavenly Academy's library pavilion was equivalent to the modern society's library, gathering all kinds of books from the Nirvana realm. There were also many books that were lost in the outside world, which could be found here. Mental cultivation methods, everything was there. But the library pavilion also had its own rules. You had to rely on your ability to speak. The first level of the library pavilion was open to all students, but most of them were ordinary books on profound qi, cultivation methods, moves, etc. Whereas the second level of the library pavilion was rumored to be divided into several categories. Each book was a famous word in the outside world, but they were all rare treasures. It was rumored that there were students on the second level who had learned many useful mental cultivation methods. However, low and intermediate profound class students were not qualified to go up to the second level of the library pavilion, nor were they qualified to borrow books back to the dormitory to read. Although high profound class students were qualified to go up to the second level, but there were restrictions. For example, the cabinet on the second level, high profound class students were absolutely not allowed to step into it. And the books on the second level could not be brought out of the library pavilion. Only the students from the class of God could enjoy all the preferential treatment in the library pavilion. Yiqing Luo had originally intended to find time to visit the library pavilion after the freshman training, to familiarize herself with the situation in this strange world. She had not expected to come to the library pavilion early today. And it was directly up to the second level. Yiqing Luo took the punishment slip from Instructor Ho, and under the guidance of the librarian, went up to the second level. Of course, no one was envious of Yiqing Luo being able to go up to the second level. As the second level was more secretive, the librarian was not qualified to stay on the second level for too long, so it had been a long time since they cleaned up. The huge second level, even if Yiqing Luo went up to the second level, just cleaning up would take up an entire day. Where would she find the time to read? The second level was brightly lit, and the four sides were inlaid with fist-sized luminous pearls. The furnishings on the second level were different from the first level. The first level was row after row of bookshelves, categorized according to the area. Whereas on the second level, each category had its own individual room. As far as the eye could see, it was room after room, with the category of books pasted on the door. After the librarian opened the door to the second level, he went downstairs. Yiqing Luo had been enduring the pain, and now that she was alone, her face instantly turned pale and her forehead started to sweat. She looked around and confirmed that there were no high-profound class students on the second floor. She then pushed a random reading room and locked the door. Leaning against the wall, she slowly sat on the floor. Yiqing Luo unbuttoned her shirt, revealing half of her shoulder. The whip wound on his arm had indeed split open. At this moment, bright red blood seeped out and dyed the white gauze red. She took out the pill that Baiming Lulu had given her from the profound phoenix ring and swallowed it. Then, he bandaged his wound again. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. After resting for a long time, the pain in his right arm gradually disappeared. However, she couldn't do any physical training right now. As for cleaning, she probably couldn't do it either. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, propped herself up against the wall and walked out of the reading room. She had to read through all the books on the second floor before she could sort out the best tidying plan and quickly finish the cleaning. There weren't many people on the second level and no one had tidied it up for a long time. There was a lot of dust and the categories were randomly placed. Yiqing Luo walked all the way to the end of the second level and memorized all the categories on the door. His mind began to think about where to start cleaning, the easiest and most efficient way to complete the task of cleaning. Chapter 360. Someone's there? Yiqing Luo cautiously stopped her actions as her body subconsciously leaned against the wall. This voice didn't sound like a young man's voice, but an extremely deep voice, at least 30 to 40-year-old middle-aged man's voice. Heavenly Academy's students, the oldest was only 24 years old. Because Heavenly Academy had a rule, if one was unable to graduate from the academy before 25, he would be expelled from the academy directly. The library pavilion was only open to high profound class and class of God students. Even if the masters wanted to come, they had to get the approval from the elders. Because of this, when she heard this deep middle-aged man's voice, Yiqing Luo instinctively felt that this person had ill intentions. It's settled. The students will be on holiday in 2 days' time. I've already kept those few people whom his lordship had pointed out, without leaving any traces. Following that, a sinister voice was heard. This voice sounded familiar to Yiqing Luo, but she couldn't recall where she had heard this voice before. And this conversation was filled with a strange feeling, as though they were carrying out some sort of plan. Perhaps it was because this timing wasn't the time to read. Or perhaps the two of them often met here at this time of the day. These two didn't check if there was anyone on the second floor of the library pavilion and directly started their conversation. The two of them had already walked into the library pavilion and were standing in the middle of the long corridor in the middle of the reading room. Yiqing Luo was at the end of the long corridor, a long distance away from them, but the surroundings were lit up by the luminous pearls. As long as she took a slight turn, she would be exposed to these two men's line of sight. Hearing their footsteps nearing, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. These two men's conversation was obviously a secret. If they discovered her existence, they would definitely silence her. In this academy where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons, Yiqing Luo didn't think that she had the ability to escape from these two undetectable middle-aged men. She congealed her senses and silently recited the incantation in her heart. Her feet shook slightly as she displayed the blink movement secret art and quietly slipped into the reading room at the end of the corridor. She stuck close to the tightly shut wooden door, not daring to make any more movements. Following that, she heard the two men outside walking as they continued to speak. That freshman. Don't worry. I'm keeping a close eye on that freshman, he will absolutely not let his lordship down. When the middle-aged man heard this, he nodded with satisfaction. After a long silence, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice, adding a bit of solemnity, Master's great plan is about to be completed. If anything happens at this critical juncture, I won't be able to protect your life. Don't worry, Lord Protector. We will do our best to serve the Lord. The middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction. I will put in a few good words for you in front of the Lord. See you in 2 days. Many thanks to Lord Protector, Lord Protector's great kindness. I will never forget it. Another person immediately flattered, showing his loyalty. Not long after, the corridor outside returned to silence. Yiqing Luo didn't go out immediately and didn't dare to risk releasing her perception to sense if the people outside were still around. About an hour later, the entire second floor was completely silent. Yiqing Luo then rubbed her 4 stiff limbs which had not moved at all. At this moment, the blood in her body had already numbed her entire body. As she relaxed her 4 limbs, Yiqing Luo's brain was spinning rapidly. From the conversation between the 2 men earlier, Yiqing Luo heard a few messages. 1. These 2 men were preparing to implement some plan during the Academy's holiday. 2. The few people whom they pointed out were likely to be related to the Heavenly Academy and needed those few people to complete the plan. 3. Above them was a mysterious man who was addressed as his lordship. Chapter 361. Not knowing if it was her misperception, Yiqing Luo inexplicably felt that the freshman whom they were referring to seemed to be her. These 2 people, who on earth were they? Moreover, why did one of their voices sound so familiar? But no matter how she searched her super strong memory, she couldn't recall who this voice belonged to. Somehow, she felt that she had heard something incredible. She furrowed her brows, and her expression became slightly dignified. If the news of her cleaning the 2nd story of the library pavilion were to spread, these 2 people would definitely think that she had eavesdropped on their conversation. Even if they weren't sure if Yiqing Luo had really heard it. But apparently, the matter they were discussing was an extremely important matter. She would rather kill wrongly than let it go. Sigh. She didn't expect that she would bump into such a matter when she was punished to clean the library pavilion. She was afraid. Her future days were not going to be peaceful. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pinched her aching brows. This matter, she would discuss it with Dmo Xian tonight. For now, it was better to tidy up the 2nd story first. Before the other party took any action, she better not let the cat out of the bag. Yiqing Luo finished stretching her limbs and was preparing to leave the room when her footsteps halted. Because the room she was in now wasn't the reading room. Earlier when she hid in, she placed all her attention on the conversation between the 2 and totally didn't notice the surrounding environment. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the surroundings of the room. This wasn't a reading room, but an alchemy room. In the spacious room, there were 2 large medicinal cabinets along the wall, and in the middle of the room were 2 huge wooden tables. On the wall opposite the medicinal cabinets, there was a bookshelf and books were piled messily on it. On the wooden table, there was a pile of bottles and jars. Some were successfully refined pills and some failed pills, all piled up into a messy pile. On the other wooden table, there were various kinds of alchemy equipment as well as messy medicinal herbs and magical beast skin and bones. Why was there an alchemy room on the 2nd story of the library pavilion? As an alchemist, upon seeing these rare medicinal herbs and pills, Yiqing Luo instantly became excited as she walked quickly to the front of the wooden table. Yiqing Luo first looked at the pill refining equipment on the table, as she started to sort out the messy pile of medicinal herbs. Every single type of herbs, Yiqing Luo would use her fingers to measure the size of these herbs, and from time to time she would sniff it. Yiqing Luo had seen these herbs in the 100 pill refining books and they were all rare and precious. But there were several herbs which Yiqing Luo couldn't identify. After Yiqing Luo had distributed these medicinal herbs, her vision turned towards the other table where those bottles and jars were. She walked over and picked up a bottle. The medicine bottle was just an ordinary porcelain, and it could not hide the faint fragrance of medicine. Yiqing Luo sniffed it and opened one of the bottles, pouring out 1 pill. It was a small, exquisite, and exquisite pill. There was even a faintly discernible flowing light on the surface of the pill. This discovery made Yiqing Luo's eyes burst out a ray of light. She had refined so many elixirs, but none of the elixirs she had refined had such a peculiar phenomenon. Putting the pills back into the bottle, Yiqing Luo casually picked up the wooden box by the side, which was filled with failed pills. The pills were full of potholes and had yet to take shape. Yiqing Luo picked up one pill and took a look. That medicinal fragrance apparently wasn't refined using ordinary pills. Chapter 362. Yiqing Luo walked around and conveniently tidied up the messy things on the table. These medicinal herbs were very light and didn't require much effort. Yiqing Luo used one hand to tidy up the things on the two tables. She noticed the medicinal cabinets and bookshelves in the room. To an alchemist, the medicinal herbs and books used to refine pills were the most interesting things in the world. Yiqing Luo was no exception. Her current level of alchemy was still stuck at the level of an alchemist. Although she was still one stage away from being a grandmaster, but the pills that the two of them refined were not just one grade apart. This alchemy room was obviously the place of a top-grade alchemist who was above her. Pills and medicinal herbs were not ordinary items. Presumably the books on the bookshelves were precious alchemy books which couldn't be found in the outside world. With this thought in mind, Yiqing Luo walked towards the bookshelves. Her hand had just touched the bookshelf and she wanted to take out a book. However, as soon as his hand touched it, before he could even react, the ground beneath his feet suddenly became empty, and his body abruptly sank. This sinking, Yiqing Luo's hand directly fell onto a slope and her entire body rolled down the slope. The pain from the wound which she had finally stopped was once again felt a heart-wrenching pain. That warm light which was released from the profound jade heart started to spread chaotically in her body. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels were no longer covered by the warm light. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain invaded her limbs and bones. Damn it! She was in so much pain. Yiqing Luo broke out in cold sweat as she laid on the ground with her limbs spread wide open, totally unable to move. The pain from the whip and internal injury struck her at the same time and she really couldn't take it. Lying on the ground, she panted heavily. After some time, she slowly regained her senses. There was actually a secret passage in that alchemy room. She didn't know what she had bumped into, but she actually fell into the secret passage. Yiqing Luo's head moved as she checked the surrounding situation. This was an extremely spacious secret room. In the entire secret room, there was only a medicinal cauldron in the middle. At this moment, that medicinal cauldron was floating in mid-air and below the medicinal cauldron was a ball of warm fire. Apparently it was in the process of refining pills. But there was no alchemist around. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment as she carefully scanned the surroundings and released her perception. However, there was indeed no one else in the empty secret room. Girl, the person who refined this medicine cauldron should be an ancestral alchemist. Old Man Sung's voice sounded in her mind. The medicine sect? Yiqing Luo was shocked. Isn't it the same level as your alchemy? The quality of this alchemist's medicine refinement should be above mine. Old Man Sung sighed with emotion. Alchemists above the alchemy ancestor level can leave at any time in the middle of refining pills. Like Yiqing Luo, when she was refining the medicinal pills, she had to sit by the side of the divine dragon cauldron at all times, controlling the heart fire and observing the formation of the medicinal pills. If she could advance to the rank of a medicine master, she would be able to control her heart fire as she pleased during pill refinement. She would no longer need to watch over her pill refinement and she would be able to save a lot of time. Lass, think of a way to leave this place. Old Man Sung said worriedly, if we wait for the medicine sex alchemist to return, I'm afraid that he will mistakenly think that you're trying to steal the pills. At that time, it will be troublesome if there's a misunderstanding. Indeed troublesome. Based on Yiqing Luo's current condition, if she really met with a medicine sex alchemist, she wouldn't even have the ability to escape. If the Heavenly Academy's medicine sex alchemist treated her as a student who stole the pills and captured her to the director, The news of her being in the library pavilion today would probably spread throughout the entire academy. Chapter 363. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes and slept quietly for a moment. Following that, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the intense pain as she sat up straight. The four sides were sealed off by stone walls, and the slope which she had rolled down from earlier was also sealed off by the stone wall, with no entrance to be seen. Based on Yiqing Luo's current state, there was no way to open that stone wall. This is troublesome. Old man Sung's tone was grave. I have no way to manifest my spiritual body to open this stone wall for you, why not? Summon Shiju out to try? Yiqing Luo nodded. She couldn't use her strength. But luckily, she had Shiju with her. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and called Shiju out. Shiju was in the pet space and had already heard their conversation. The minute it appeared, it didn't need Yiqing Luo's instruction as its little body arched up. Its fur stood up and its body suddenly became huge. Roar! Shiju gave a low growl as its beast eyes were pitch black and sharp. Its huge body suddenly leapt up and its huge leopard claw directly slammed onto the stone wall. Bam! A loud sound was heard. Yiqing Luo felt the entire secret room shook thrice. But that stone wall didn't move at all, not even a single piece of debris. Yiqing Luo blinked. Shiju blinked. One human and one beast looked at each other, speechless. What the hell was this situation? Shiju's claw had used 80% of its strength and it was actually unable to break through this stone wall? What kind of place was this? So powerful. Roar roar! Shiju's eyes flashed as it raised its claw unyieldingly and slammed onto that stone wall. This claw shook the entire secret room, as though it was about to collapse. Yiqing Luo's body swayed a little, causing waves of throbbing pain in her internal organs. Her slender brows creased into a bundle as she sucked in several breaths of cold air. However, the stone wall still didn't budge. Don't tell me I really have to wait for that sex alchemist to return before I can leave? Roar roar. Shiju's body suddenly shrunk as it nestled beside Yiqing Luo, sticking out its little tongue as it licked her face. The low whimper seemed to be apologizing to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. It's not your fault, I know you've tried your best, looks like. The owner of this secret room is a very powerful person. Even as a mirage beast, Shiju had no way of knocking open this stone wall. This was enough to prove that the medicine sex alchemist's power was definitely at the earth mystic realm and above. Yiqing Luo had just finished her words when suddenly a light fluttering voice was heard by her ear. This little girl is quite self-aware. This voice was so cold that it seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. Before Yiqing Luo could even turn around, her body suddenly felt light as she was grabbed by her collar and forcefully pulled up. Shiju, who was lying by her side, because of the sudden action, fell off Yiqing Luo's body as it waved its little claws towards the sky. This action made Yiqing Luo's internal organs feel as though they were being torn apart, causing her forehead to be filled with cold sweat. A skinny old man stood in front of him. His entire body was enveloped in a white long robe, even his head was covered tightly. This white robe didn't look like the robes of the master's or elder's quarters. It was plain and clean without any patterns, just like a clean piece of white cloth. The only adornment was the 5 golden star-shaped badge which was embedded in front of his chest. Under the long robe, that pair of malicious eyes were so cold that there wasn't a single trace of emotion. His hand easily grabbed Yiqing Luo's collar as he got closer to her. Young lady, get out of here. Chapter 364. This throw made Yiqing Luo like a kite with a broken string as she fell out. Yiqing Luo couldn't muster up any strength, so she had no way to maintain her balance. Seeing that it was about to crash into the stone wall, that Shiju, which was sprawled on the ground, scurried towards Yiqing Luo like lightning. Its body size turned huge in time as it used its plump and huge body to block Yiqing Luo. Shiju's skin was very thick, and the moment it crashed into it, Yiqing Luo felt as though her body was falling apart as the pain was unbearable. This man. His temper was really weird. Throwing her away without any explanation, did he treat her as an object? Yiqing Luo's collar was held in Shiju's mouth as it slowly placed her on the ground. It specially laid on the ground as it used its body to support Yiqing Luo's body. Earlier it was you, this little thing, who wanted to smash the secret room which I used 1,000-years-old crystal to create? Long-robed old man's cold gaze shot towards Shiju. When he saw Shiju, his eyes flashed past a trace of covetous intent. Good skeleton. Good skin. His words had just ended when the long-robed old man's figure flashed and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Under the loose long robe, a withered yellow arm stretched out as its 5 fingers turned into a claw as it clawed towards Shiju's neck. That momentum was extremely ferocious, as though a whirlwind had struck. Mirage beasts were born with strong senses and could acutely sense the long-robed old man's murderous intent as its eyes instantly filled with a scarlet color. Its fangs bit onto Yiqing Luo's collar as it speedily retreated. Bam! A loud sound was heard as the long-robed old man's hand, which had turned into an eagle's claw, struck against the stone wall. Earlier, no matter how Shiju slammed against the stone wall, it didn't even leave a single scratch on the stone wall. That eagle's claw had actually scratched out 5 cracks. Stone splattered out as it landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted as her heart was overwhelmed with shock. This old man was not an ordinary kind of powerful. Shiju was unable to smash the stone wall, but he had easily left a mark on it. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to imagine what would happen if the old man's hand had landed on Shiju's neck. Her eyes were covered with a layer of vigilance and coldness as she was worried that Shiju would be frightened. She endured the pain as she caressed Shiju's body as she patted it gently. After all, Shiju's age among the mirage beasts was only equivalent to a 7 or 8-year-old child. Little girl, leave the magical beast. You scram. The cold voice was filled with madness and excitement. The pair of eyes under the white robe seemed to be staring at its prey, revealing a bloodthirsty delight. This old man's madness was completely unlike Guo Yu's wanton madness. It was true insanity. From this old man's tone and expression, Yiqing Luo was extremely certain that he wasn't joking. Recalling the magical beast's skin and bones on the table in the pill refining room, Yiqing Luo's heart surged with a chill. This old man wanted to use Shiju's skin, flesh, and bones to turn them into ingredients for refining medicine. Senior, I'm a student of the devil class. Today I've been punished to the 2nd level to clean up. I didn't mean to offend Senior. Her eyes were alert. Her tone was neither servile nor overbearing. She revealed her identity. For this old man to be in the Heavenly Academy and to be able to establish his own alchemist on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion, he must be one of the higher-ups in the Heavenly Academy. It was very likely that they were from the Elder Division. As a student, she was protected by the Academy. That old man in long robe raised his withered yellow arm and directly lifted the robe on his head, revealing a skinny little face. He was over 50 years old, his face was pale and his eyelids sunken, looking as though he was physically weak. But his dignified expression made one feel intimidated. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.